Heyo, you're listening to Edge Coach Quip, featuring our very own Edge coaches and community, dropping knowledge nuggets to fuel your day.
Hello, welcome to Coach Quip, episode 83.
We're here talking about the Shamrock Shuffle today.
And we're in a little bit different setting, you might find, because we're trying out a new room to see how it sounds. And it looks like we're in the Alps, but in fact, we're in the Edge bike room.
And today we have some special guests with us as well. So we're bringing in some local experts to help us talk about the Shamrock Shuffle, why this race is amazing, and all the things that you can expect. And let's start it off by introducing our very special guests.
All right, first up, we have the Mike Brown. He is co-director of Gumbo Fit and a four-time Shamrock Shuffler, and he has known oodles of people that have and coached and paced and helped oodles of people to cross that finish line for that 8K. Thank you, Mike, for being on. What's up?
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Nothing's up. Just doing a little bit of recovery right now, but I am excited to be on and talk a little bit about some Shamrock shuffling.
It's here. And second, we have Kristin Gonzales of Tortugas. She also heads up the Tortugas Run Club, which I love their Instagram. We'll get to all the handles at the end, I promise. Thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to share all my knowledge with you guys.
Let's go.
All right, let's go. So Shamrock Shuffle is coming up this weekend in Chicago, and this is one of the first races of the year for our athletes. First substantial races. And so we want to talk about this amazing race in our episode today. So what makes this race so special?
So what makes it special for me is, and I was just literally having a conversation with somebody about this, is that it's a peculiar distance, right? That people don't run most of the time. It's an 8K. And for it to be the kind of starting race, like you said, Chris, for the Chicago running season, and the amount of people that they pull in for this 8K race, that sets it apart from a lot of races that go on throughout the year, throughout other cities. I haven't seen anything quite like it. It's just something that's just very special to Chicago specifically. And also what is special about it too is that it's kind of like a preview to a full marathon, the full marathon being the Chicago Marathon in the fall, if anybody has any aspirations to do that. So if somebody just wants to put their toe into the distance running, it's a little bit faster, but at least you can kind of get somewhat of a course preview, catch that bug, and then you know, next thing you know it, you're signing up for the full marathon the next fall. So that's pretty much what makes it special for me.
I love that. It's a door opener.
It's a gateway race.
It definitely is. It definitely is. Yeah, it's like a gateway drug.
It is the kickoff of the Chicago running season. That's why I like it. But also, like Mike said, back in 2011, that was the race that gave me the confidence to run the 2011 Chicago Marathon. Like, I was like, if I could do 5 miles, I could go do a full 26.2. Like, let's go.
Yeah, you guys are completely dead on with that one. Yeah,
That's what I was expecting. I didn't think the gateway race answer was going to be what we got, but what do you love about the Shamrock Shuffle?
I love the bad weather. I feel very strongly that if you can race in Chicago in all months, that you don't 100%, right? But just having the gusto to get out there, I think, is inspiring for people around you. And it has a tradition of just being, although this weekend looks amazing, it has a tradition of being pretty tough conditions. And it's like, man, if I can do that, I can do anything. Yeah, bring on the marathon, bring on the half marathon.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, it's like the moment of you can do hard things, right? So if you train through the winter in Chicago, and then you get this race that is like the gateway to spring, and it's the entry point to 13.1 and then to the marathon. So it really does feel like a whole world of possibilities are ahead of you as a runner, having this race kick us off.
Oh, the magic.
100%. It definitely ramps you up. You know, I think you guys say it perfectly fine. A lot of people ask me like, why do you train so much in the winter? But it really makes you resilient for the summer. It's very, very helpful. And, you know, training for the Shamrock Shuffle is a target, you know, it gives you that target to kind of ramp you into, you know, other things, right? Like, it doesn't even have to be the Chicago Marathon, but just keeping that consistency going, right?
Oh, that's a perfect segue to our deep dive. So that is our Coach Quip. That's the short version. I know you all want to learn more though, so keep listening. Next up, we've got bonus miles. Same subject. Shamrock Shuffle. It is only still long, 5 miles, but there's a lot to be known about this race. So Kristin, I'm going to ask you first. Are there any parts of the course that are noteworthy? Good or bad?
Yes, definitely. Okay, be careful running over the bridges with the carpet. I almost ate it at mile 3 of the Chicago Marathon this past year, and it would have been really bad. So I would definitely be careful running over the carpet. They sometimes get like a kink, and that will definitely take you out, and you don't want that to happen. Also, like, people come out there to have a good time. I love seeing the costumes that people come out on in race day. Like, there's tutus, so people just running as a green person, like full head to toe, green hair, everything. So I just love it.
Definitely helps distract you from the pain.
Yes.
All right, Mike, what about you? Anything maybe on the course?
Yeah, definitely the red carpet is what we call it for the Shamrock and for the marathon, is that those grills, like, please, be careful with that because it can go not so pretty. One thing to note, bathrooms are after the first mile. Okay. So if you guys are looking for the bathrooms, it's going to be after the first mile. They'll be on your right. It'll be right before the first water stations. Some people do make pit stops before that. They just kind of find a corner or something like that. But
Let's clarify that. So are there bathrooms in the starting area though?
yes,
Okay.
yes, that is, yeah. That would be bad if it wasn't. There's definitely some, but some people, they don't have to use it until the gun goes off, and they're like, okay, I got to do something. So after the first mile, for sure.
I always tell people, go to the bathroom as soon as you get there after you do your gear check. So then go empty and then go back in line, because that line's already going to be really long. And by the time you get back up there again, you're probably going to have to go again. So then you're like clear sailing for like the whole race and you don't have to stop.
That's a fact.
That's a pro tip.
Yeah, you are my people. That's me. That's a great point. I love that. All right, so let's look at the whole race, the overall approach. So whether you are running it yourself or you're coaching an athlete to their very first Shamrock Shuffle, what sort of approach should runners take? Because we've talked about this is an odd distance, right? It's not a 10K, it's not a 5K, it's not a marathon endurance effort. So what approach or mindset should your athletes be taking when they're approaching that starting line at the shuffle?
I think a lot of the times, the one thing I always tell people is first have fun, right? I look at Shamrock as one of those things where it's like, it's fun because it is a longer distance. And like you said, it's kind of odd or whatever, but you can get pretty fast with it, right? But the one thing I say is don't gun it, right?
Yeah.
Don't
go out mile pace.
Right. Do not go out mile pace, because I think that a lot of people, in their minds, it's how the course is mapped out. They're like, oh, I can just get through this like really, really fast. And it's like, well, hold on. 5 miles is actually longer than you really think it is, right? Especially when you're running like at a faster pace, you're going to end up burning yourself out. So, I kind of, give them to stay in that range that, maybe what they would probably do like in a 10K like pace, maybe even a little bit slower to that, until they can kind of, find their way where they have some open runway, see how they feel like the first 2 miles or so. And if they need to pick it up from there, then do it, then gun it. And they're going to need some energy for Mount Roosevelt. So just for reference, if anybody knows what Mount Roosevelt is, it's that last hill right before the end of the race for the Shamrock Shuffle. You're going to need some leg power for that portion. So, save a little juice for that end.
I forgot that Mount Roosevelt was in this race. So that's a really great reminder. And also, we don't to it the marathon. Just something about you.
So for me personally, I do like to start off slower because it takes me a good mile for my legs to warm up and then to weed out of in between the crowd to like a little bit more open space. So I'm like more of a positive splitter when it comes to running. So I'll start out slower pace, and then I like to like crank it in and like kick it up a notch per mile, like go, go, go. So then that way my last mile, like I'm giving it all I got, and like all gas, no brakes kind of thing, up the hill and all. And if you haven't trained for the hill, my recommendation would be power walk Mount Roosevelt. Like, and you have to, when I say walk it, like walk like you have to go to the bathroom and you can't find it. Like that's the kind of pace you need to be walking.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah, I bet you brought up a good point about about pacing, right? So is this a great race to do negative splits? Is this something that people can be even across, or what does pacing look like for folks?
Yeah, I think it just depends on the athlete, right, and what they're comfortable with. But I think that it is definitely something that you can even split. If in my mind, sometimes I see it as a tempo run, right? And if you can, even split that, then power to you. That's great. But it's also something that I would encourage people to negative split as much as possible. If you can, shoot for that, but I don't think that there's anything wrong with positive splitting it as well. It's just to try to encourage people to, like Kristin was saying, stay conservative so you can have some energy at the end. But you can definitely even split this if you want to, if you treat it like a tempo workout.
I meant to say negative split. Clearly my brain's somewhere else and I need more coffee. I'm really sorry.
We knew what you were saying.
You guys knew what I meant.
Yeah, it just made me think of something else too in terms of timing and whatnot. This distance being 8K. Is this a race that, and I know this varies by athlete, but is this a race that you suggest people do something special for nutrition, or just use what's on the course? Is it kind of go by feel? I mean, what is your approach to the nutrition effort on an 8K race like this?
For me, I always because I'll long run train throughout the whole training course of it. I stick to a Pop-Tart first thing in the morning, and I love Alani.
I'm racing with you from now on, Kristin.
Just sounds good.
And then I chug an Alani before I leave. It's 200 milligrams of caffeine. So I'm lit by the time I get to the start line. And David's usually like, why are you so happy? I'm like, because I just had a whole bunch of caffeine. We are going kind of thing. So I'll have a Pop-Tart, Alani. I'll drive there, use the bathroom. And then I definitely will bring a goo with me on this course because I am going to try to push my limits more and speed it up as I go along. So I will pop a Morton halfway through.
Yeah, no, I think your nutrition game plan may change just because it's not a longer distance, right? You're not going to be doing something where you're like, oh, I'm going to pop a goo or a gel or a Morton every 30 to 45 minutes or something like that. But you should still have some type of nutrition plan, right? Whereas I like Kristin's method of it, right? She takes care of the nutrition at the beginning of the race, which makes sense. She's going to have the energy to kind of really tackle it down. And then by the half, you can kind of assess, you may have a gel on you, you may have to assess and see where you're at, because you might have exerted a lot of energy at that point running that fast. So then at that point, you can either, do your Morton to give you that extra push, or maybe a caffeine, Morton gel pack to kind of get you over the edge, and then you're good to go. But you should always have some sort of nutrition plan in any of these races, right? I think you guys bring up a good point. Some people may go into shorter races thinking oh, I'll be fine. And I think that that's just not a good way to go into things, because we always have to make sure that we fuel ourselves in these high intensity type situations.
Yeah, I think you both have just saved a lot of people a lot of trouble by mentioning to bring something on race day, because most will not. I have one quick tip, which is to run the tangents. There are a lot of turns, I think, especially for people who do the half and the full, which have much longer stretches, and rightfully so. The shuffle is all downtown, and we're covering 5 miles. It's not 5 miles long, right? So we have to do a lot of turns in order to skirt around the loop, making sure that I don't think there's a line on the ground, but running the tangents and hugging those corners. I've seen, athletes race 5 1/4 miles instead of 5 miles because they're just, they're running wide. So whenever possible, cutting those corners to keep the distance true.
Yeah, I love that. So we talked about people in tutus, people all in green. That was one of the first things, right? So the spectators, right? This is one of the first opportunities for spectators to actually enjoy the running scene in Chicago as well. Do you have any tips for spectators? If your runner is out there and they have their family coming to enjoy it and to see them race, what sort of things should we be telling our friends who are coming out to see us this weekend?
I would say if you want to stand out, hold like a crazy colored balloon so they can easily spot you on the course. And then 2, if you go down Michigan and Columbus, that's going to be the last mile. So that's when people are going to be going all out, and there's lots of cheer like run crews out there that are going to be cheering as well. So it's going to be a lot more like lively environment. So I would recommend that spot on the course.
I like what Kristin was saying about that last portion of Michigan, being kind of like that last boost, because we keep going back to Mount Roosevelt. We keep speaking on that, right? And it helps the runners to have that encouragement before they tackle that last hill for that last stretch. So I think that if spectators plan on meeting runners at multiple spots, which some people may very well do because it's maybe someone's first, race just in general, and they want to just make sure they, catch somebody like a couple of times. I would say that, making that last one a priority would be good. I also would encourage the runners to take a look at the map to see.
I love that.
Certain zones or certain cheer stations or certain people are going to be. Talk to the community, see where your run group or, other friends and stuff like that are going to be cheering, right? One of the things that I always do in any of the races in Chicago is I always reach out and say, okay, hey, where are you guys going to be situated at, right? So I can know where an edge is going to be. So I know to look forward to seeing Robyn at this point, or, where is a Gumbo Fit or a Tortugas or something like that? Where are you guys going to be situated? So I know where to look for you guys. So it's the same thing for Shamrock as well. Last thing I would say for anybody that's like a spectator and stuff like that is that if you are there, kind of going back to the nutrition thing, maybe, have some water, or maybe have one of those gels, or maybe a banana, just in case, that runner may need that extra, the boost. And what if something happens and they don't have anything on them, right? You just made their day.
Yeah.
To finish that race, or anybody else. Rather, it might be a stranger. You might not even know that person from a can of paint, but they may be struggling and you just helped them, like, hey man, you here, take this bottle of water, and now they're going to be able to finish.
Yeah, I love that. And I learned this lesson on spectating the hard way. Actually, my wife did. When I ran the Chicago Marathon last time, my wife ran 7.5 miles trying to see me and saw me 0 times. And so that was poor planning on my part and the tracker being a little bit behind. But what we learned from that is to pick a specific location and also designate the side of the street and like the northeast corner of such and such an intersection.
Yeah.
Because if you are going through and they'll be like, oh, I'll be at, Michigan and Columbus or wherever, that's actually a large area, and it can be really difficult to see people as you are running in motion and they're standing there. And when we're out there, so many of us look the same in our race uniforms, especially if we're bundled up, right? So picking that specific location and doing so based on however you're going to get there. So if you're going to take the red line downtown, don't pick a spot that's on the other side of the race course that you're not sure how you're going to get over there. You might be better off picking that, west side of the street so that you can come off the red line and see your person in the specific spot. So if it's really important to you to see your people, pick a couple of very specific spots so that the runner can also be looking, because a lot of times it's the runner that sees the spectators instead of the spectators that sees the runner, because we're in motion. So if that's important, make sure that you plan that out.
All right, looking a little beyond Shamrock, what does post-race look like for each of you? So whether, you're racing Shamrock or not, how are you recovering? How are you celebrating? Kristin, I'm having you go first.
I'll go. So after the Shamrock, I will go home, stretch, roll. And then there is a Tortugas after party called the Celebration that I will be attending.
Oh, wow.
It starts at 1:00. It's at the Penny Whistle in Pilsen. The proceeds are actually going to a scholarship foundation for Dreamers. So all the money we raise will go towards them for that scholarship. So that's where I will be. And we don't know how long the party's going to last until Penny Whistle kicks us out, I'm going to say.
Immediately after any of these races, me personally, what I do is I will do something that's like heavy in carbs, right? Even if it's just like another like Morton like gel like drink solution, just immediately just to replace them, and a protein shake. And then after that, I try to find some sort of alcohol or something like that. Probably not the best thing in the world, but It's probably not the smart. I'm not advising that. Please do not follow me. Don't do as I do. Do as I say. But but yeah, it's the celebration. It's getting back into the community and celebrating folks that may have done it for their first time. We have a lot of runners that's going to be running with Gumbo Fit this year, that this is their very first race just in general. Just getting back to them and just saying like, hey, I don't know if you realize this. You may reflect on this in the next week or so, but this was a big accomplishment and just one further step to you accomplishing even more goals. So, be proud of yourself with that and pour more into it.
I love that the answers that we both gave here are rooted in community, right? Because it really seems, we mentioned this is the race that kicks off the Chicago racing season, but it's not a race that people go and some people may go and do it alone, but there's so many opportunities to find community or to celebrate with community. The cheer zones, the number of people that are out there, the number of people that you'll be running with. I just love that this really seems like the opportunity for us to strike our solo winter training and really come together as a running community to move forward in racing throughout the year, which sort of brings us to our next question. So how can athletes leverage the Shamrock Shuffle in terms of fitness, like moving forward for the rest of the year? What comes after this?
For me, I'm rolling right into Bank of America 13.1 training. So I will run the half in June. And then from June, I'm going to roll into the full marathon for October, the 26.2. So that's what I will be. It's just it's an ongoing cycle of just going. And if you surround yourself by the right people and the right crew, those miles go by faster and they're not so dreary. And on the days when you're not feeling great, your friends are going to pick you up and it's going to be a lot easier. So I recommend finding your people.
You just basically gave every coach's dream of stacking bricks in a short to long fashion. So we want to do speed before distance, and you're doing exactly that with 8K, half marathon, full marathon over many, many months, which is how we love to see it for that beautiful, progressive, productive training cycles. So many people should follow your footsteps. What about you, Mike? How do you see people using this fitness forward for the rest of 2023?
I completely agree with Kristin. This is the natural progression, is to go from Shamrock to the 13.1. And then ultimately, if you make that decision to do the 26.2 Chicago Marathon in the fall. And I love the fact that they have positioned the 13.1 where it is now, right? This is going to be his second year. It's perfect. It gives you another target because, I always have jokingly with athletes, soon as they're done with the race, I immediately go what's next, right? Just to kind of freak them out a little bit. But I think it is something that you should think about. It's something that you should, so you have something else to aim for, right? A lot of people try to talk about kind of that I don't like to call it depression, but just that void that is opened after you have done a training block and then you do the big day and stuff like that. You can kind of overcome that if you look ahead and you kind of say, okay, all right, I'm going to accomplish this. I'm not going to focus on it right now because I'm focusing on this one right now, but this is kind of what I'm thinking right now. And 13.1 is a natural progression because you've done, like you said, that speed work before you tackle that longer distance.
What is your final piece of advice for shufflers this weekend? Mike, I'll start with you.
Don't wear new shoes, because it kind of goes back on the thing of people, thinking that this is a shorter distance, this isn't a marathon. I can just go out there and do it. No, I think that if you get in the habit of doing some of the same things that you would apply in a 5K, an 8K, a 10K, half marathon, an ultra marathon, you need to replicate, even though those things are a little nuanced in between each distance, a lot of the, kind of basics are still, at the root of everything, right? Don't wear new shoes the day of the race day. It's not going to go well. You can get it done, but you're going to regret it most likely. So please, wear something you broke in, something maybe that you trained in, or if you did have a new pair of shoes, hopefully you put some miles in to break them in before the day of the race. So yeah, that would be my advice.
And I would say just have fun and smile, because somebody's going to be taking your picture that you may not know, and it's going to pop up somewhere. So just smile along the way.
Makes it hurt less.
Mhm.
All right.
So what's your advice?
My advice, other than running the tangents, because that really is strategy, is to use the wind to your advantage. So when it's gonna be windy, if the windy said we get in line, we train in it year round. This race switches it up a lot. So if the wind's at your back, get some space to yourself so you can really get that push. If the wind's in your face, get behind someone or work with someone and rotate, and use each other. This isn't it's tens of thousands of runners on a 5-mile course, which means it's more concentrated, which means we have the ability to run with people much, much more than a half or a full marathon. So use them, motivate people around you, you will get it back tenfold. And yours.
Mine is see what your body can give you on the day. So don't spend time comparing to your last times that you did or past times or your 5K times, because it's not the same. Every time that we race is a new day. Even if the course is the same, the weather conditions, who you are as a person is different. So just go out there and, this goes directly along with having fun, but have fun and see what your body will give you on the day.
That's good. Keeps it neutral. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Before we wrap, where can everybody find you? So feel free to give your personal Instagram as well as your crew Instagram. Mike.
Come check us out, Gumbo Fit. We run various days throughout the week, mostly on Saturdays. You can follow us at Gumbo Fit on Instagram, and all of those good things. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can find me at Mike B Running without a G. You'll see me. It's a lot of Mike Browns on IG, but they don't have that name tag, so I'm sure you'll find me just easily.
And for me, I run with Tortugas. You could find us at Harrison Park every Sunday, 10 a.m. And the Instagram for them is Tortugas RC. And then my personal Instagram is Kristin Gonzales _.
Thank you both so much for being on, Kristin. Good luck. She's in a stiff competition with David. I think you got a good chance, girl. Get it.
Good for you.
See you just past mile 3.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to Coach Quip. Original music performed by Ment. Follow us online on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Edge Athlete Lounge. Our podcast lives in the blog section of our website. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and you can check out the show notes for additional ways to contact us. Ready, set, onward we go.